My former mother-in-law's face went from smug satisfaction to something I'd never seen before. Complete stillness. Her hand, which had been reaching for her wine glass, froze midair. My daughter Emma stood there, 8 years old, holding the deed to the vacation house in Lake Tahoe, the one my in-laws had been bragging about buying for the past 6 months. The one they'd told everyone would be for the real grandchildren only. The one I'd purchased 3 weeks earlier for $847,000 cash. Emma didn't understand what the paper meant. Not really, but she knew enough to read the address printed at the top. She knew it was the house her cousins had been talking about all evening. She looked at me with those wide brown eyes, and I nodded. "That's right, sweetheart," I said, my voice steady and calm. "That's the deed to the Tahoe house. We own it now. Not Grandma and Grandpa." The room had 43 people in it. Every single one went silent. Let me tell you how we got here, because this didn't happen overnight, and it sure as hell wasn't about a house. My husband died 4 years ago. March 15th, 2021. Aneurysm. He was 34 years old, and we'd been married for 9 years. We had Emma, who was 4 at the time, and we had a life that looked pretty normal from the outside. David worked in commercial real estate development. I was a project manager at a tech firm, pulling in about $73,000 a year. We lived in a decent neighborhood in Sacramento, had a mortgage, had car payments, had the usual financial stress that comes with being in your early 30s with a kid. What we didn't have was life insurance. Not enough, anyway. David had a policy through work worth $150,000. After funeral costs and paying off the credit cards we'd racked up the previous year when the transmission died on both cars within 3 months of each other, I had about $97,000 left. I put it in a high-yield savings account and went into survival mode. David's parents, Richard and Patricia, came to the funeral. They stayed for 3 days. They brought casseroles and sympathy cards and made all the right noises about being there for Emma. But I saw the way Patricia looked at our house, at our IKEA furniture, at my 5-year-old Subaru in the driveway. I heard her whisper to Richard's sister about how she'll probably have to move back in with her own parents now. I didn't move in with my parents. I kept my job. I kept the house. I kept going. What changed was how David's family treated us. The first Christmas after he died, December 2021, they invited us to the big family gathering at Richard and Patricia's house in Granite Bay. It's one of those neighborhoods where the houses start at $1.2 million and go up from there. Richard had built his wealth in medical device distribution. He owned 3 companies that supplied hospitals and surgical centers across Northern California. He was worth somewhere in the range of $8 million, and he made sure everyone knew it. That Christmas, Emma opened presents with her cousins, David's brothers, 3 kids, and David's sisters too. They got iPads and electric scooters and gaming systems. Emma got a $25 Target gift card in an envelope. She was 5. She didn't really understand the disparity, but I did. I watched Patricia hand out those elaborate gifts to the other grandchildren, watched her smile and take photos, and then watched her hand Emma that thin envelope with barely a glance in our direction. I didn't say anything. I smiled. I thanked her. We went home. The next year, Christmas 2022, we weren't invited to the big gathering. Patricia called me 2 weeks before and said they were keeping it small this year, just immediate family. I pointed out that Emma was immediate family. She was their granddaughter. Patricia's voice went cold. "We're thinking of this as Richard's children and their families. You understand." I didn't understand, but I said okay. We spent Christmas alone that year. Emma asked why we couldn't see her cousins. I told her Grandma and Grandpa were busy. She was 6. She accepted it. By the summer of 2023, I'd started to notice other things. Richard and Patricia posted constantly on Facebook about family events, family dinners, trips to Disneyland with the grandkids. Emma was never mentioned. Never included. When I saw Richard at the grocery store in August 2023 and Emma ran up to hug him, he patted her head absently and then spent 10 minutes telling me about the college fund he'd set up for David's brother's oldest son. $75,000 so far, he said. We're aiming for full tuition at Stanford. I said that was generous. He didn't ask about Emma's education. He didn't ask how we were doing. He mentioned that he and Patricia were thinking about buying a vacation property, somewhere the family can all go together. That's when I knew. Emma wasn't family to them anymore. David was gone, and without him, we didn't matter. I started making calls. I'd been promoted at work in January 2023 to senior project manager, bringing my salary to $94,000. I'd been careful with money since David died, living below my means, rebuilding savings. By that summer, I had $127,000 in the bank. I started researching investment properties. I started learning about real estate markets, about commercial development, about all the things David used to talk about that I'd only half listened to because it was his world, not mine. In September 2023, I registered an LLC, Sierra Vista Properties. Filed the paperwork myself, paid the $125 fee online, got the confirmation email at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I didn't tell anyone. By November 2023, I'd taken out a business loan for $180,000 using the LLC and my own credit, which was excellent. David and I had always been meticulous about paying bills on time. I bought a small commercial property in Roseville, a 2,400 square foot retail space that had been vacant for 8 months. Got it for $310,000. Put $130,000 down, financed the rest. Had it rented to a physical therapy clinic by February 2024 for $4,800 a month. After the mortgage payment, I was clearing $1,650 monthly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I worked my day job. I managed the property on weekends. Emma went to school and playdates and soccer practice. We were fine. We were more than fine. I didn't know that at Thanksgiving 2023, Richard had told the whole family that he was disappointed in how I was handling things financially. David's brother mentioned it to me months later, in April 2024, when I ran into him at Emma's soccer game. Dad thinks you should have sold the house and moved somewhere cheaper, he said. He's worried you're going to end up asking him for money. I hadn't asked Richard for a single dollar. Not for the funeral. Not for Emma's school expenses. Not for anything. But the assumption was there, clear as day. I was the struggling widow who'd eventually come begging. In May 2024, I bought a second property. A duplex in Citrus Heights for $425,000. Both units rented. Cash flow of $2,100 a month after expenses. My accountant, Sarah Chen from Martinez and Associates, helped me set up an S-corp structure to optimize taxes. You're building something real here, she said during our meeting on May 23rd. Do your in-laws know? No, I said. And let's keep it that way. In July 2024, Richard and Patricia announced they were buying the Tahoe house. Posted photos on Facebook of the property, a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom place right near Heavenly Ski Resort, lake views, large deck, recently renovated. Our family getaway. Patricia captioned it. Can't wait to make memories here with our grandchildren. Emma saw the post. She asked if we'd get to visit. I said probably not. She asked why. I told her grandma and grandpa had their own family activities. She was 7.5. Old enough now to feel the exclusion. Old enough to notice that her cousins got mentioned by name in Patricia's posts and she didn't. I went to work the next day and called a real estate agent in Tahoe. I'm interested in properties in the Heavenly area, I said. For bedrooms or more. Under $1 million. I had been watching Richard and Patricia's posts carefully. They'd been in escrow since June. They'd been talking about closing any day now. I knew how real estate worked. I knew how these things could drag out. My agent found me 3 properties. One of them was the exact house Richard and Patricia were trying to buy. I asked how that was possible. She explained. The sellers are a divorcing couple. They accepted an offer, but the buyers, an older couple from Sacramento, have been dragging their feet on inspections and financing. The sellers are getting impatient. They want this done. The older couple from Sacramento was Richard and Patricia. If I came in with a cash offer, I said, could we close in 2 weeks? My agent paused. How much cash? I'd sold my second rental property in early July for $445,000, making a $20,000 profit. I'd refinanced my first property, pulling out $85,000 in equity. I had $563,000 liquid. I can go up to $850,000 if needed, I said. We wrote the offer that day, July 18, 2024. $847,000 cash, no inspections, 14-day close. The sellers accepted within 4 hours. I didn't know until later that Richard had been offering $825,000 with a 30-day close and had been asking for $15,000 in credits for repairs. The sellers were done waiting. On August 1, 2024, I closed on the Tahoe house. Wired the funds at 9:32 a.m. Got the keys at 2:15 p.m. Drove up with Emma that weekend to see it. She loved it. Asked when her cousins could visit. I told her we'd see. Richard and Patricia found out they'd lost the house on August 3rd. Their agent called them. I heard later, through David's brother again, that Patricia cried. That Richard wanted to know who had stolen their house. The sellers weren't telling, and neither was I. Patricia made a new Facebook post. Sometimes things don't work out the way you planned, but we know God has something better in store for our family. I didn't comment. In September, I saw a post about a family dinner at Richard and Patricia's house. All the grandkids were mentioned. Emma wasn't invited. In October, Richard posted about setting up a family trust, making sure our legacy goes to the people who matter most. In November, Patricia posted about Christmas plans. So excited to celebrate with our 3 beautiful grandchildren this year. Emma asked if we were going to their Christmas party. I said we'd have our own celebration. But then on December 10th, Patricia called me. We'd like Emma to come to Christmas dinner, she said. It's important for her to be around family. I asked if anything had changed. What do you mean, she said. I mean, Emma hasn't been included in family events for 2 years. You don't mention her in posts. You don't call on her birthday. What's different now? Patricia's voice got tight. We're trying to do something nice. Don't be difficult. I thought about saying no. But Emma wanted to see her cousins. She asked me every few months if we could visit. I decided we'd go. Just to see what game Patricia was playing. We showed up on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2024. 6:15 in the evening. The house was decorated like a magazine spread, 12-foot tree in the foyer, white lights everywhere, catered food in the dining room. 43 people. David's extended family, Richard's business partners, Patricia's book club friends. Emma wore a red velvet dress I'd bought her at Nordstrom. She carried a small gift for each of her cousins, wrapped carefully in paper she'd chosen herself. Patricia answered the door. Looked at Emma. Looked at me. Oh, she said. You came. We walked in. The cousins were in the living room, surrounded by presents. Emma started to go toward them. Patricia put a hand on her shoulder. Sweetie, she said, the gifts under that tree are for the grandchildren who live here locally. You understand. Emma looked confused. But your dad isn't here anymore, Patricia said. Her voice was gentle, like she was explaining something simple to someone slow. You're not really family the same way. We got you something special, though. She handed Emma a gift bag. Emma opened it. Inside was a used coloring book. I could see the pages were already partially colored, and a pack of 8 crayons. The kind you get free at restaurants. I watched my daughter's face. Watched her process it. She didn't cry. She was 8 years old and had already learned that her grandparents didn't value her. The room had gone quieter. People were watching. David's brother looked uncomfortable. His wife was staring at her phone. Emma closed the gift bag. Thank you, Grandma, she said. That's when I saw it. The shift in Patricia's face. The satisfaction. She thought she'd put us in our place. She thought we'd leave quietly, embarrassed, reminded of our position. I smiled at Emma. Why don't you get the envelope from my purse? Emma reached into my bag and pulled out the small manila envelope I'd placed there that morning. I'd been carrying it for 2 weeks, waiting to see if I'd actually use it. If Patricia had been kind to Emma, if she'd treated her like the other grandchildren, I would have left it alone. But she hadn't. Emma opened the envelope. Inside was a single document, folded once. She unfolded it. Her reading had gotten much better this year. She was in 3rd grade now, and her teacher said she was reading at a 5th grade level. She looked at the paper. Looked at me. This is the deed to. She paused, sounding out the street name. 4713 Lakeshore Boulevard? The room went silent. Patricia's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. Richard turned from his conversation with a business partner. That's right, sweetheart, I said. That's the deed to the Tahoe house. We own it now. Not Grandma and Grandpa. I watched the color drain from Patricia's face. It took about 3 seconds. She went from that smug, satisfied expression to pale white. What? The house you tried to buy in July, I said. I bought it in August. Closed on August 1st. Paid cash. Richard was moving toward us now. That's not possible. You don't have $847,000? I finished. Actually, I do. Well, I did. It's in the house now. Patricia's hand was shaking. She set down her wine glass with too much force. Some of it sloshed onto the side table. You're lying. I pulled out my phone, opened the Photos app, showed her the pictures from our weekend trip in August. Emma on the deck. Emma in the kitchen. Emma in the bedroom that would be hers, the one with the lake view. I've been renting it out on Airbnb since September, I said. Making about $6,400 a month. Covers the property tax and insurance, plus maintenance. And whenever we want to use it, we just block off the dates. David's brother had put down his beer. Holy shit. Patricia couldn't speak. She was looking at the deed in Emma's hands like it was in a foreign language. Richard found his voice first. Where did you get that kind of money? I earned it, I said. I've been building a real estate portfolio since 2023. Started with a commercial property in Roseville. Then a duplex. Sold the duplex for a profit. Bought the Tahoe house. Currently, I own 3 properties with a combined value of approximately $1.4 million. The LLC is called Sierra Vista Properties. You can look it up. Patricia's face had gone from white to red. You've been lying to us. I haven't talked to you in 2 years, I said. You can't lie to people you don't speak to. Richard was pulling out his phone. I knew what he was doing. Looking up the Tahoe property records. They were public. It would take him about 90 seconds to confirm what I was saying. The room was completely silent now. 43 people watching this unfold. Patricia tried again. You couldn't possibly, you're a project manager. You make, what, $70,000 a year? $94,000, I said. I was promoted. And I'm a senior director now, actually. As of October. Salary is $128,000. That wasn't true yet. The promotion to senior director was happening in January, and I didn't know the exact salary, but close enough, and I wanted to see her face. Richard looked up from his phone. I saw his expression change. The property records say Sierra Vista Properties, LLC. Deed transferred August 1st, 2024. That's correct, I said. Patricia's voice came out higher than normal. Tight. Why would you do this? Because you tried to buy a house for your family, I said. And Emma isn't part of your family anymore, apparently. So I bought it instead. For my family. David's sister, Michelle, spoke up from across the room. Mom, you told us the deal fell through because the sellers were unreasonable. Patricia didn't answer. She was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Richard tried a different approach. This is absurd. You're being petty. It's a house. You're right, I said. It's just a house. Just like this is just a Christmas party. Just like Emma is just your granddaughter. Just like that coloring book is just a gift. Emma was still holding the deed. She wasn't quite following all of this, but she understood enough. She understood that something had shifted. That her grandmother was upset and her grandfather was angry, and it had something to do with the paper in her hands. Patricia's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Richard's business partner, a man I'd met once or twice at previous family events, cleared his throat. Richard, I think perhaps we should. We should what? Richard snapped. This is family business. Then maybe treat your family better, David's brother said quietly. Richard spun toward him. Excuse me. Emma's your granddaughter, he said. You gave her a used coloring book. What the hell, Dad? Patricia found her voice again. We didn't. It wasn't. We were going to give her something else later. You just what? I asked. Wanted to humiliate her first? Wanted to make sure she knew she wasn't as important as the other grandchildren. The silence stretched for full seconds where nobody said anything. Then Patricia's sister, who'd been standing near the fireplace, spoke up. Patty, this is bad. Even for you. Patricia whirled on her. Stay out of this. I won't, her sister said. I've watched you ice out this child for 4 years. David would be ashamed of you. That landed. Patricia's face crumpled. Not with sadness, with rage. Don't you dare bring my son into this. Your son is the reason Emma exists, I said. And you've spent 4 years pretending she doesn't. Richard tried to regain control. Now listen here. No, I said. I'm done listening. Emma and I are leaving. We have our own Christmas to celebrate. In our own house. Or maybe in Tahoe. We haven't decided yet. I held out my hand. Emma gave me the deed. I folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. Put the envelope back in my purse. Patricia was crying now. Actually crying. You can't just. I can, I said. I already did. 8 months ago. I took Emma's hand. We walked toward the door. The crowd parted. Nobody tried to stop us. As we reached the foyer, I heard Richard behind us. This isn't over. I turned back. Yes, it is. You had 4 years to be grandparents to Emma. You chose not to. That's done. What happens now is up to me, and I choose to protect my daughter from people who don't value her. We left. Got in my car, a 2024 Audi Q5 I'd bought in November with some of the Airbnb income. Emma buckled herself into the back seat. Mom, she said as I pulled out of the driveway. Yeah, baby. Do I really have to share my coloring book with the other kids? I looked at her in the rearview mirror. What coloring book? She grinned. The one in the gift bag. Oh, that. No. That's garbage. We left it inside. Good, she said. It was ugly anyway. We drove home. Ordered pizza. Watched Elf on the couch. Put out cookies for Santa. Emma went to bed at 9:30, excited for Christmas morning. I stayed up late, looking at the photos from Tahoe on my phone. The house really was beautiful. We'd spend New Year's there. Just the two of us. Maybe invite some of Emma's friends and their parents. Make our own traditions. Richard called me 3 days later. December 27th, 10:17 a.m. We need to talk about this situation. No, I said. We don't. You embarrass Patricia in front of our friends. Patricia embarrassed herself when she gave my daughter garbage for Christmas. We're family, he said. We should be able to work this out. We're not family, I said. You made that very clear. Emma and I are doing fine without you. He tried another angle. What about the other properties you own? How did you finance those? None of your business, I said. I think it is. If you're using David's life insurance. I used David's life insurance to survive the first year after he died, I said. Everything I've built since then, I built myself. You don't get to question that. You don't get to audit my finances. You're not my father-in-law anymore. You're just some guy who used to be related to my late husband. The line went quiet. Then, Patricia wants to apologize. I don't want her apology, I said. I want you both to leave us alone. I hung up. They did leave us alone, mostly. Patricia sent a card in February with $100 and a note that said, for Emma's birthday. We're thinking of her. I sent it back. Unopened. Richard tried to friend me on LinkedIn in March. I declined. In April, David's brother told me that Richard and Patricia had bought a different vacation property. A cabin in Arnold, near Bear Valley. Smaller. Less expensive. They posted photos of the grandkids there, the 3 who counted. In June, I bought another commercial property. A small office building in Elk Grove. Paid $565,000. Currently 85% leased with stable tenants. Emma finished 3rd grade with straight A's and made the select soccer team. We took a trip to Disneyland in July, just the 2 of us. Stayed at the Grand Californian. She met all the princesses. We got matching mouse ears. In August, I got the formal promotion to senior director. Salary, $131,000. Not $128,000 like I'd told Patricia, but close. We spent Labor Day weekend at the Tahoe house. Emma invited her best friend from school, Maya, and Maya's mom, Jessica. We hiked around Emerald Bay, made s'mores on the deck. Emma told Maya, "This is my house." Well, my mom's house. But I get to come here whenever I want. Maya's mom pulled me aside. She told me her grandparents gave her a used coloring book for Christmas. Is that true? Yeah, I said. That's horrible. It's fine, I said. We don't see them anymore. And we didn't. For 7 months, everything was quiet. Emma stopped asking about her cousins. She made new friends at school, stayed busy with soccer and piano lessons and the normal rhythms of being 8 years old. We spent Thanksgiving in Tahoe, just the two of us, cooking a small turkey and watching the Macy's parade. Christmas 2025 was at home in Sacramento. We invited my parents, my sister, 2 of Emma's friends, and their families. The house was full of noise and laughter and people who actually cared about us. Then yesterday, January 3rd, 2026, my lawyer called. Her name is Andrea Moss, from Caldwell and Associates. I'd hired her in September to handle some contract disputes with a tenant in my commercial building. She's sharp, no nonsense, and doesn't waste time. We have a problem, she said. Richard and Patricia Coleman are claiming the Tahoe property transfer was completed under duress. I was at my desk at work. Lunch break. Eating a salad from Whole Foods. What? They filed a motion to contest the sale. They're claiming you had inside knowledge of their offer and intentionally sabotaged their purchase. They're calling it tortious interference. I put down my fork. That's insane. The sellers chose my offer because it was better. I know, Andrea said. But they've hired Robert Kensington from Marsh and Kensington. He's expensive. He's filing in Placer County Superior Court. They want. I hung up. Not on Andrea, I'd call her back. But I needed a minute. I opened my desk drawer. Pulled out a small USB drive I'd been keeping there since July 2024. On that drive was a recording from July 17, 2024. The day before I made my offer on the Tahoe house. I'd called Richard's real estate agent, pretending to be a potential buyer interested in properties in the area. Asked about the Lakeshore property. She'd told me on a recorded line, because I'd mentioned I was recording for my records and she'd said, sure, no problem, that her clients, the Colemans, were difficult buyers who kept adding conditions and that the sellers were losing patience. She'd said, verbatim, between you and me, if someone came in with a clean cash offer, I think the sellers would jump on it. These people are dragging their feet, and frankly, I don't think they have the money they claim to have. I'd been waiting for Richard to pull something like this. Waiting for him to try to undo what I'd done, to find some legal angle, some way to prove I'd wronged him. I smiled. Turned my computer back on. Drafted an email to Andrea. I have documentation that will end this. Can you meet today at 4 o'clock? Her response came back in 30 seconds. I'll be there.